Me and Spence.
I don't know. We're just going.
Yeah.
Just talking. Yeah.
It's through, I think through Ruby's, right?
Through Ruby's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say, yeah, we had some conversation in Ruby's. I feel like I just kept seeing him like everywhere. We've been doing some
That
like,
seems to be the place to be to make any connection.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I'm like, who is this guy? You know what I mean? Like, this kid with the mullet. He's like that. He does music.
Solid mullet.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
yeah, man. Then we just hit it off and then started rocking out ever since, really. Word.
Yeah.
Did the mullet come before the new craze, or was it part of?
I like to think
the
it
trends?
was before.
Okay.
Did
you have it as a kid?
No.
Okay.
So I never grew out my hair. I'd always like buzz cut it growing up. So I never knew I had like the curls or anything. So I just started growing it like 2 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
And then just rolled with it.
Yeah.
So I
That's
thought it
awesome.
looked cool.
Yeah.
So,
That's so cool.
thank you. I appreciate
and,
it.
it has been a while because you had Melt since your Talon video.
Yep.
How long's that been?
That's been about
been
a year and a half,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah. So
Cool. I love that spot too.
mhm.
Was that your first video?
I think it was. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. First ever video.
First
so.
video, was it? That was the first live show also, right?
Yep.
Where was that?
It was at Talon. At
Okay.
Talon
Okay.
Winery. Yep.
Okay. Got it.
So it was cool.
Got it.
Yeah.
Now,
Talon's
were
the
you guys
spot.
hooked up at that point?
So
No.
yeah, we weren't hooked up. I think when I was at Jeff Ruby's, Spencer came over and was introduced himself again. I had seen him at another event, and he's like, "Yeah, man, like I do music," and I'm just like, it can't be a coincidence that I keep running into this guy. Like, I gotta check him out. He was just like an amazing young man. And then I listened to his music, and I'm like, hold on, like, is that a black guy that I just met? That's singing R&B. I could have.
What was the first song you heard?
I want to say is it Safe?
Probably
I'm
Safe.
safe.
Yeah.
So I heard that one, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty crazy. I could have swore this guy told me he was from Eastern Kentucky. He was from Appalachia. Like, what is this? And so after I heard that, I was just like, yeah, we gotta figure something out.
Oh, yeah.
And then tell us about.
Oh, so God of the Hills. It's actually a brand. I started it about a year ago. Was the vision for the brand. Of course, it was inspired by Brooklyn, where I'm from. By my grandmother, more specifically, she would clothe people in our communities, and when she passed, it was a way for me to. My bad, my phone keeps blowing up. Hold on one second.
It's all good.
This is actually Martina.
You're busy doing business.
I'm trying to stay locked.
Always.
But yeah, I think it's interesting. Like a lot of people will recognize you if they don't know you from the music world. Yet, they will from Ruby.
Yeah.
For
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, it's like it's quintessential. I'm from a rural town, and Lexington, the big city, more opportunities, and he was just sharing some stuff with me that was really impacting me. So the golf brand, right? Yeah. So it was a way for me to honor my grandmother and losing her. The golf logo actually, it represents the ups and downs of life. So we talk about the hills. What are the hills? It's really just the challenges that we all face, whether you're from the hills of Brooklyn or the hills of Appalachia. And we started laying the foundation. And the vision for the brand is to be able to utilize biotechnology to grow fibers in a more sustainable way. But ultimately, what we've been doing is building more of a community. And you can't really, I guess I would say, innovate or impact the culture without talented creatives like Spencer that inspire us through his music.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that you could pair streetwear and a Brooklyn style logo and agriculture and Appalachia together? Totally makes sense though. I mean, they're both having their moment right now. I mean, what is it really about Appalachia that's like coming to the forefront? It seems like you turn the news on or go on social media, you start seeing stories and people, just that lifestyle and the world that's there is coming out. So what's going on there?
Well, one, it's a beautiful place. I lived there for the past 4 or 5 years of my life. Just being able to come outside and see the rolling hills and the mountains. I feel like it's a place that I could actually consider a part of my home now. And then also with building a relationship with my brother here, I think a lot of the similarities and the comparisons between a place like from Brooklyn and also from Appalachia is, you know, a lot of similarity. You know, a lot
Can
of
you
times,
spell that out a little bit? What are those similarities?
So I would say one is that, you know, we're just as talented and creative in both of these places, but a lot of times we get overlooked, you know, being an underserved community. And you know, I find it very ironic that me from Brooklyn, I would go around, you know, when I was living in Pikeville, and I would wear Carhartt or mix it up in a certain way. And then I would see folks out there and they would see me, you know, it's not a lot of African Americans, you know, all over Appalachia, but it would be empowering for them to see me and think, oh, you know, folks in Brooklyn or in New York City, you dress like us. And for us in Brooklyn as well, it's like, you know, we're empowered by the things that we wear. So a lot of those similarities. And then, of course, with me being in agriculture and the state, in the eastern part of the state being so rich in agricultural traditions. And, you know, when you talk about fashion, we have to grow these fibers and they come from somewhere and they support some community. And I just think I was really blessed to be able to live in both communities and understand these things and bring folks together as opposed to, you know, building up walls because of how we look or what we dress or how we dress. You know, it just feels better that we could do it together. And,
So true.
you know,
Yeah.
those
And
things.
it's such a great connection, you know, like
Oh,
you said,
yeah.
and just really, and you're both such great, you know, role models. And I think that showing
Thank you.
younger generation, you know, coming together and bringing you know, your communities together with your fashion or your interests, like music and fashion. It's a big deal.
And how do you build that community, though? You know, you have a geographic space between Brooklyn and the hills here. But we have the internet, right, to connect us all. So how do you build that community where Brooklyn knows about Pikeville and vice versa?
Well,
You
I
have
would,
lots of events, don't you?
yeah, absolutely. And I would say it begins with that just authentic relationship building. You know, I would have never in a million years thought that I would be hitting it off with my brother here, who, you know, kind of, I feel like life just, or the universe just kind of placed us together. You know, we have done multiple events. We've done a lot of events here highlighting different local businesses. We've also traveled to New York. We've done some events there as well. And, you know, just with the community that supports and follows me in Brooklyn, we was able to introduce them to my Kentucky family. We even designed some pieces called BKY to represent, you know, that I don't know, for lack of better words, just that unity in these two different places. But that's where you start. I mentioned again, we've had events, and I mean, once you build a relationship with someone, they could tell someone else. I think that's the best way, and that's what we've been trying to do. Aside from, you know, highlighting stuff on social media, of course.
Like today, like podcasting, all the stuff you're doing, all the things that hit all the mediums, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us what's coming up. You've got a big event coming up here at we're taping here at the Manchester.
Yeah. I'm just looking at this right now too, and it's
it not spectacular?
Oh my gosh.
Have you been here?
I have.
Okay.
It's been a long time though, so definitely seeing it and seeing what they're doing outside too.
Yeah,
it's really exciting. So I know, you know, this Sunday, top floor here, we're gonna have just a good night of R&B. Like, we're gonna have drinks flowing. We're gonna have the vocals, you know, going as well. So I'm really excited for it.
Are you gonna like do a little acoustic? Give us a little preview today?
Man, I don't know. That's a good shot for sure.
We'll break in.
Absolutely. Get this voice getting a little bit warm here. So
what brought you to R&B, by the way?
You know,
you talk about a mullet and what are we calling this? Velvet, like crushed
velour.
Yeah, velour.
Yeah, like,
come on.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was feeling the velour.
Look at you, but these guys will break in.
Gotta hang out with you guys more.
Hey, yeah. I don't know. It just kind of started out like I tell people all the time. One of my most memorable childhood memories was just being with my mom. I was probably, 5 or 6 in the back seat of her car. She'd drive me somewhere. and we'd be singing Casey and JoJo All My Life, like all my life, just stuff like that.
Gotcha.
See, we're
Gotcha.
getting a little bit
There you
more
go.
here, but stuff like that, Brian McKnight, a lot of that real good like early 2000s and 90s R&B, and then it kind of just blossomed from there. I had so many different music phases throughout life. Like I loved classic rock, even had a little phase where I loved country music, and I love all of that, but I eventually just came back to the R&B and really just felt it. Yeah.
Was it I feel like there might be a variety of ways that people make a choice of like which direction to go with stuff. Vocally, maybe things sit in a certain place and it just feels better to sing this style versus something else. Or is it a marketing move almost where it's like, okay, we got this Nashville country thing that's like being beat to death right now. I'm going to go do something else. Like any of that go through your mind or no?
I think it's like you said, one about the vocals for sure. Like there's a lot of like my falsettos, I feel like are some of my strong points, which is, super prominent in R&B. But I also think too, it's just like whatever.
And what is a falsetto?
That's just like it's like those high notes. Yeah. So
our listeners out there may not know.
True. But that, and then two, just like as an artist, the way you should be doing things is you should make what you want to make and what you feel, how you can express yourself the best through whatever medium that is. And I think R&B, I just resonated the most with. I don't know whether it's the songwriting style, the roots of it. Like I just connected with it and
where
rolled
does
with
that
it.
Confidence come from? Because a lot of people would, if they're not selling out Rep Arena or something, they're always looking at somebody else and trying to model. Most people would sit there and go, okay, that's what I should be doing. That's what I should be doing, rather than being fully true to themselves. So how do you have that confidence to say, no, I'm just going to be me and just keep going?
Well, it definitely takes time for sure. Cause I've never growing up, I wasn't super confident always, but I think just taking your time with experimenting in like the different genres and mediums, and then just repetitions put in with that. And then it's like, okay, yeah, I'm good at this, or I'm confident in what I'm making, and, just going forward from there. So.
And feedback, you're getting great feedback. And as
that too.
As that continues,
Yeah.
So you're writing all your own thing.
Oh yeah. 100%. Right? Yeah.
Where do you pull most of your inspiration from?
Yeah, I would say trying to think as far as like writing, just past relationships, a lot of that. Sometimes too, it's like something that I may not have necessarily been through, but could see other people going through, and it's like I want to write for this, for this person or this situation.
Well, and I think this relationship you guys have too, I think you're gonna really start gaining a lot of inspiration from going to Brooklyn. There might be a song in a year that comes out of that experience, right? And the people you're meeting and the experiences that you're all having together.
Yeah.
And you're like your mission to combine, like you said, the Brooklyn and the Kentucky aspect.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about all these different experiences, is it just shapes you more as a person. You learn more about yourself. Like this year, I've been to LA for the first time. Cool. Just went to New York for the first time this past weekend. Like all these, you just see different types of people. You talk to them, you meet them, and it's just you're learning a lot about yourself too, going through all these experiences. So that definitely plays a part in like the songwriting.
And we're all not that different, right?
Yeah, exactly. We were I guess the booking agent or whatever that was like hitting me up about this show was like, hey, we'd love to come, like have you come out to LA. We've got all these different dates. We could do October 23rd. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. I was thinking in my head, but like didn't tell him this. Like, my dad, he passed away years ago. I was like 6. He passed away on that date. And then he's like, yeah, we're going to be having you perform at a place called The Virgil. That's my dad's name.
That's so weird.
And I didn't tell him any of this. Like, there's no way. He still doesn't know, probably.
Wow.
You know, and it's crazy because the project that I released like a few months ago, there's a song, first time I ever wrote about my dad, and it's an interlude. It's called Virgil's Interlude. And it's just like me talking about, you know, where you at? I need some guidance, you know, and just stuff like that. It's just
That
like,
Do you
sounds
see that as a
you're like,
sign? Like,
I was-
that's where
yeah,
I'm supposed to
right.
be
I think
right
so.
now?
Yeah.
I think so. 100%.
Hard not to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's
So,
wild.
Wow.
I mean, I had to do it. I had to. So
And
Yeah.
how was it?
it was awesome. It was great. It, you know, definitely a character building experience because, you know, you hear of artists as they grow and stuff. There's shows where, you know, not everybody's going to know their name or their songs,
Sure.
but I took that as an opportunity just to
Gotta
give
start
them
somewhere.
exactly. So
Well,
I-
how do you take that? How do you go on stage? You know, you get a known person and people are like screaming, jumping out of their pants to like, you know,
Mhm.
Yeah.
applaud.
mm-hmm.
And if they don't know who you are, you don't necessarily get that reaction. So how do you?
Or maybe you did.
Not, I didn't, to be honest, but
Yeah.
you know, it was,
Sorry to assume, but I kind of figured.
No, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it just kind of is what
Well,
it tends to
part of
be.
it.
here's the thing is I go into every show being like, okay, whether there's 1 or 1,000 people,
Mhm.
I'm going to put on a great show for that
Right.
whole amount of people. And for that show, even, you know, it didn't start out where, you know, people knew my name or whatever, but, you know, I believe that I gave them an experience to where they would remember the name and they
Right.
would stream the music afterward and, you know, have that connection there.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of the
That's awesome.
mindset, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just
gotta
have
keep-
fun with it on stage too.
Yeah.
So that's half the battle as
Yeah.
well. So
That's great.
mhm.
You have a great presence on stage. I've seen you a couple times.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Very good.
He does.
Appreciate
Very
it.
very nice vibes. Very nice
Mhm.
vibes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's only going to keep getting better, right?
That's
It is.
right. That's the
That's
goal.
right.
It is, and
That's
and
right.
also with his work ethic, like you know, we talk every day, every evening. He's like sending me notes and up in the studio and practicing early in the AM, even before his
Mhm.
shifts. And that's the kind of dedication and sacrifice that it takes, you know, to grow through this industry. It's certainly not
Mhm.
an easy industry to be a part of. But you know, we believe that has what it takes,
Mhm.
and that helps me
Yeah.
continue to be a mouthpiece for him and his talent. And yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to it. You know, we started building a relationship you know, a short few months ago.
Yep.
And since we've been working and grinding and doing shows and traveling together, now, you know, we have this opportunity on Sunday to
Mhm.
put on this performance in, you know, what's considered the #1 hotel in the
Right.
world. I think we were talking to the GM and he was telling us about these awards, you know, and that means a lot. And we don't take that lightly because,
Mhm.
you know, we know that what we are trying to do, what we have been doing, is really impact our community, our culture in the right way.
Mhm.
You know, being in fashion and being in music, we want to continue to highlight Lexington community. You know, we hear a lot about Kentucky, but it's not, you know, necessarily about Lexington or about Corbin, Kentucky. So that's what we want to continue to focus on.
A lot of big
Build
things
those
coming
bridges,
up.
not only
Mhm.
for us, but you know, the next generation of talented creatives that are
Yep.
also in this community that seek opportunities like this that, you know, don't necessarily have access to it. I think
Yeah.
this is just, you know, an opportunity that we both truly grateful for. And
Yep.
I'm just,
Yeah.
100%.
I'm excited. I'm
So
excited.
what's 5-year plan look like?
5-year plan, I would say, you know, just consistently dropping music. I think that's key. Growing as an artist as well, just finding whether it's my own subgenre or, you know, just experimenting with different sounds, just
Mhm.
growing as an artist. 2, touring, whether, you know, we just start out and do a Kentucky wide tour to eventually nationwide and all that. And just being one of the biggest names eventually closer to the, you know, the end of the 5
Yeah.
years, being one of the biggest
R&B.
names in R&B.
Yeah,
That's the
I love
goal.
that.
Yeah.
That's the
Is
goal.
there a venue that you have on your brain that you're like, I will play here? Any place?
Okay, so there's 2. The second one's gonna sound silly, but just stick with me. The first, I would say probably like,
No silly answer.
well, you know, I would say probably Rupp Arena, just because living in
Sure.
Lexington, and I mean that's the place to be in Lexington. The second one is the Corbin Arena.
Yeah.
Just that's what I consider home, and it's actually
they've had some big names in the Corbin
Yeah.
Arena, and they're spending some serious money on their marketing
Yeah.
right now too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they've got a lot. Corbin's booming.
Mhm.
There's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
I'm taking notes.
Yeah. It's growing. So I mean, it's a good sized venue, and I don't know. I just imagine myself like having a little homecoming show or something. I think that'd be cool.
Well, those moments are massive too. Whenever you go back home, bring the community together. They're proud of their people that are out there representing them well,
Everybody's
putting
like,
them on the map. Of course they want to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not about the size of the venue, I mean, the love in that crowd is going to be wild.
Oh yeah.
When it happens,
Right.
So
absolutely.
cool.
And that, like I said, I mean, exactly. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be the biggest venue. It's the one that you want to see yourself on.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yep. The one that brings like the most emotion and
and is most special.
Exactly.
Has the most
Exactly.
impact.
Like I'm sure, the goal is to do like Madison Square Garden, stuff like that too, of course.
Sure.
But those specifically, it's home. So
yeah. And Kentucky's having a big moment right now with other artists that might be putting us on the map. So I'm curious, is there any leverage or any way that you can ride that wave in a positive way that, doesn't make it a coattails situation, but
like
something that
up for Jack Harlow or something.
I wasn't gonna say his name, but
yeah. I mean, that would be cool.
Yeah.
That would be cool if that ever happens. That'd be great. If it doesn't happen, that'd be great.
Sure.
It's whatever. I respect people like Jack Harlow, Bryson Tiller, people from Louisville, huge names like that. But I don't know. I just believe like what we're doing right now in our own path and our own lane. I like where we're headed. If we cross paths and, do that, that's great. I don't know. I just think,
attitude to have about it.
yeah. I think
Tyler
and I
Childers.
don't
I don't know
think
why his name didn't come
Well,
into this.
I
But
mean,
True.
That's a great connection.
Yeah.
I mean,
Stapleton,
you open it
Yeah,
up for
right.
him would
Yep.
be really cool because
Yeah.
it's the vibe you all have. It's the whole
Yep.
concept. Combining those two music genres would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's really riding coattails like you just mentioned if you're opening up. I mean, half the people that are famous opened up for somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
more
yeah.
famous.
Yeah.
So that's just how it happened.
Mhm.
And that's kind of
Very true.
what you got to do.
Yeah.
Very true.
100%.
And shout out to all of those folks,
Yep.
that you just mentioned that are, highlighting the state in such an amazing way. I mean, you could make the case. I mean, pop culture, hip hop, that Kentucky has, a few of the top and the brightest and most talented right now. And I think that's something to be said about the next generation of artists like Spencer Diamond or even Mars that we have coming in from Louisville to be a part of the show. This is the space, this is the place, excuse me,
Yep.
where the next best and brightest talent is coming from.
Yeah.
It must be something in the water.
Keep drinking it.
Yep. That's right.
Well, sorry, I was going to say, like, what do you think that X factor is? Because there are a lot of people that want to blow up, making videos, playing shows, trying to tour, doing that sort of thing, delivering pizzas on the side, like whatever their stories are. What do you think it is that actually like gets you to break through to that next level?
I think personality is huge. But like people seeing your personality. Because for example, Jack Harlow is a huge, like his music, people loved his music, but once, people started seeing his, just his like charisma and everything like that, that's when they really started
Where did that really start showing?
Was it commercials? It was something. I mean, he's always on TV. I think it's like being a business owner, right? In a store. People like your store, but they ultimately end up liking you. You created the environment in the store, right? And I think you're right. Like I think people are starting to learn more about who he is as a person.
Yep.
But I think he's done a lot of things in Kentucky to kind of I think
he was just here a week ago or whatever
events,
doing the
very
show.
similar to the things you all are doing.
Yeah, they just had a tour stop at Rupp, and he has done a lot to impact the community, specifically in Louisville where he's from. But it's just certain folks, certain talented creatives like Spencer that, there's a presence about them. And not only, is it that piece, but they have the discipline and the work ethic to grind regardless of the obstacles that's going to be presented to them. And then I would say I would add to that, it's also about networking and building those relationships with folks who have done it. A lot of people who have helped Jack and supported Jack, we've been in touch with. Spencer's definitely on their radar. But then there's the other added element of, tearing down a house like he's going to do on Sunday night. And doing that each and everywhere that he shows up and performs at. Yep. And, we got a great big state with 120 counties. And, you hear him, he ready to go on tour already. I'm like, you just dropped the EP, Spence, let's slow it down. But it takes that level of discipline and sacrifice. And also, his hometown, Kentucky, that support is very much needed. And that's why, we've been out here, grinding and working so hard. And I think if we can, get all of those things to work together in our favor, I don't see any reason why he won't be the next guy up. A lot of folks, a lot of creatives that have came here had to leave. They had to leave. And now that we have these talented folks that are representing us in the right way, we want to also make sure that we build those, what's those words? I don't want to keep using build those bridges, but just clear pathways to success, clear pathways to success. We want to keep our talented folks here. We want them to explore and go see New York City and travel the world. But, Kentucky is in his heart. It's in both of our hearts. And we want to win the hearts of the people here. Through this guy's handsome face and his beautiful voice.
Yeah, that's right. That's
I
right.
think you're right. You said a really important word. It's relationships. You said, how do you break through? It's like, well, you got to do all the things, and you're doing all the right things.
Appreciate it.
And those relationships are important. They always say your network is your net worth, right?
Yep.
So keep those, don't burn bridges, and keep those relationships strong, and keep doing things like this. Like this helps people know who you are.
Yeah.
They hear you, but then it's like you said, when you get to know somebody, that makes you want to really support that person and follow them and continue to, celebrate their success.
I think musicians go for the obvious where they're like, I got to network with musicians. So I'm curious, what advice do you have for networking outside of that? Because the other musicians might not have the funds or the actual network that you really need to get you to the next place.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I would just say I feel like just connecting with everybody. One, just like why not try to talk to everybody? At least try to be friendly with everybody.
But you were at Ruby's. You weren't hanging out somewhere else.
Yeah,
that had to be strategic in some way. So like, there's a certain crowd that goes to certain places, right? So.
Yeah,
you were thoughtful and mindful about that, I'm sure. So like, why a Ruby's? Who were some of the kinds of people you were trying to get in touch with?
I would say like entrepreneurs or even like Ramel. Like I knew like you weren't in music, but you were around it, and I could just see like how you moved and conducted business in like a great way. And I was like, there was a point where I was like, man, I need to just stop being humble and not say anything about the music. Let's just try to be like, hey, I make music. I don't want to be that guy, but you check it out or something like that.
But that's what you have to do.
Yeah,
and that's a confidence factor too.
100%.
You got to be able to. Why not have that conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to say I've been learning this more and more by being around you, Spencer. Thank you for the compliment. But there's something very powerful in being vulnerable.
Absolutely.
And it's something that I'm still learning how to do, but I've been around him, and not only through his music is he vulnerable, but also, genuinely just as a man. And I think it takes that level of vulnerability to put yourself out there and to even want to engage and network with folks that you believe can help you, move your career forward in that way. And so I think that's also what we've been doing. I'm a mover and shaker.
Yeah,
it's in my blood, and especially about the things that I care about the most, that I'm passionate about. And so, with that being said, I think that we just have a lot more work to do in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
And is there
I
a
don't
way
think-
that you can organically incorporate like the network you've built as a ball player and all that stuff, and the people you know? Is that a thing you try not to do? Like, how do you approach?
Oh
I
no,
think
no.
it all kind of goes together, really, right?
Absolutely. You know, sports, entertainment, fashion, and I think that what puts me in a unique position to be able to support Spencer is the fact that I've had that experience, and it doesn't hurt to have been, you know, in the state for as long as I've been here and
Sure.
supporting on the multiple different levels, whether it's being on a stage and not on a stage, but on that Broadway in Rupp Arena that holds 24,000 people, or even, you know, being able to create 1,000 jobs in Appalachia and the region and serve on a state board of ag and just all of those things. They go a long way. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Accolades right
Thank
there.
you. You know, they
Yeah,
go a
let's
long
not
way.
skip over that.
That's
It's wild.
Yeah. And so, you know, to the great point that you made, you know, your network is your net worth is your network, and everybody's on the hotline right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everybody's on the hotline.
And when you were in school, you majored in ag, right?
Yes.
So like, did you think that the league wasn't in your future? Did you have a feeling where you just, you know what, I actually like school, I'm going to do something I actually want to major in? Like, why did you choose that path that obviously you still continuing?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. Yeah, that made me happy.
I asked the same thing to Todd Landry.
So when I came to UK, I started off, I was studying fashion. So my big vision was to be a professional basketball player, to have my own clothing line. But attending a few of those classes, it got really overwhelming for me. And I was speaking with my advisor, and he's like, all right, well, you know, what else do you care about? And I'm like, well, I only care about feeding people, you know, this one. He's like, you might want to get into, you know, community leadership and development in the agriculture department. You might like this.
And you got overwhelmed in the fashion part, and here you are doing apparel.
Both.
Yeah.
Is it overwhelming now? Like, do you look back and go, hey, that used to be overwhelming, now it's not? Do you still kind of see certain things?
I look back on my time in the fashion department and think, you know, maybe I should have stuck it out for a few more semesters before getting my degree in agriculture. Maybe it would have helped. It would have helped on multiple different levels. But I'm still grateful and appreciative. We launched the first vision for the brand. It was actually with the University of Kentucky Fashion Department and Scarlett Wesley, who was my professor there. So it was a amazing full circle moment. I would say now, it's certainly challenging, but entrepreneurship is challenging.
What do you find?
Not for the faint of heart.
What do you find challenging?
Oh my gosh! I mean,
I'm gonna put you out there.
I mean,
tell me what you suck at.
I mean, take a pick. Well, one is you know, I'm still learning on. Now, granted, God of the Hills is a, you know, we are a fairly new company, but it's been really difficult to not want to do everything. So I've been, you know, really learning how to bring supportive folks in that really care about the vision, to really join the team so that I can make things a little bit easier.
So delegating,
there you go. Yeah, that would be
easy as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely not at all. I mean, I would say also, you know, for the past few years of my life, I was focused on fruits and vegetables. So to completely transition into fashion, it also has not been the easiest transition, but you know, it has been well worth it. I think that, I mean, nothing that we truly want to have or do in life is. So I'm just, you know, I'm still growing through my entrepreneur pains and aches and pains.
The journey.
Yeah, it is.
And you're on the same path.
Yep.
Like you both are kind of on the same
100%.
path.
Yep.
Yeah, stomach stomach is just going crazy every day. It's just like, okay, you wake up in the middle of the night, you wake up early. What else do I need to do?
Yeah.
Man.
It's just nonstop until you know, actually get comfortable in that lifestyle. So, you know, we grown through it.
Yeah.
It-
Nonstop.
Yeah.
Very
If you ever actually get comfortable, right?
I was just gonna say
like
that.
you hit a certain
You get
thing and then
comfortable
you're
just
doing
staying
something else.
uncomfortable.
And now you're
Yeah.
uncomfortable again.
Yeah.
and nervous and on edge.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just becomes part of your like
Yeah.
Right.
personality.
And we kind of spoke about, being in a crowded field, crowded industry, a lot of people are trying to do an apparel thing as well. So how are you approaching coming into something that's a little noisy, and how do you stand out? I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
taking Brooklyn and Kentucky
Mhm.
and those two things, putting them together.
Mm-hmm.
Just what do you think about that?
That's a very good question. So, because I would say I've been exposed or have access to see what the future holds in regards to the new technology that has been proven in the fashion industry is where my confidence is. Ultimately, what we want to do with the brand, the fibers and materials that we want to use by utilizing this technology. And then I think that one of my strong suits is being able to build community. So, it's gonna take a little bit for us to be able to produce the clothing in the way that we want to. But I think the more important thing has been the way that we have been building the brand. There's not any specific linear way to building a successful brand. And I think the way that we've started is by building these kinds of collaborations authentically.
Yeah.
So we still haven't officially had our first drop.
Mm-hmm.
We've customized and upcycled some of the pieces that we have to stay true to our vision of truly being sustainable. But I think what's more sustainable than the clothing itself is actually the community that we're building. And the goal is to continue to build that community till we have enough of a buzz that where folks actually are ready to purchase. Folks like it, they see it on you, but it's different when it's up on a website and available for purchase. So we want to build up a little bit more hype and buzz. But I think that that technological piece and that community building piece is what is going to set God of the Hills apart.
And I think it's cool. Like, it's kind of come full circle for you because, a lot of people are always associating you with their brands.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have a brand. I mean,
Yes.
you are a brand. And now you're finding people to kind of associate with your brand.
Absolutely.
You're doing this thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's really neat to watch that, and you're, like you said, that's how you're going to set it apart is by relationships like this.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And continuing that with different artists and different people and different personalities and influencers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And
Very cool.
I also have to thank Spencer because of just how amazingly well you represent the brand.
Appreciate it.
Awesome.
You
Thank
know,
you.
a lot of your core values align with mine, and I just want to do my best, or we'll do our best to show how much I guess what I'm trying to say is through our creativity, whether it's the clothes or whether it's the music. Yeah, that's the goal.
Telling our story and being vulnerable.
Yeah.
I think that just pushes it out and makes it authentic in its own self.
Have y'all done
As long as you don't make me cry, brother. As long as you don't make me
Spencer
cry in the
Diamond,
music.
Ramel's
No, I can't.
sweatshirt or
So,
something.
well, what we did was we both collaborated on a few pieces for the rollout of the EP. But definitely not singing. I can't sing like this guy. Yeah, I gotta find some kind of other way to.
So just the clothes,
Yeah.
collaboration. Just
Yep.
to drag him up on stage.
Man.
I know, right?
That'd be fun. That'd be really fun.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Get me in the studio a little bit.
Like that last Jack Harlow thing. The guy in the back is just like dancing or whatever.
Yeah.
Like didn't say anything.
Oh,
Like,
the
what's
thanks.
going on?
Yeah.
I know that clip. I know that clip, but definitely not. I'm gonna bring some more flavor to the stage. Nah, I can't have my guy Smith out there like that. Nah, I wouldn't do you like that, brother.
Man.
Okay, I got a bit of a heady question. Jen knows I love asking.
He does.
stories.
I'm like, okay. Can you
And
come
she
back
tries to bring me back down,
back down.
Okay.
to the world. But, with the internet and social media, we get to see, and especially during COVID, we got to see literally in everybody's living rooms and how we live and how similar and how different we are and share culture and what we're talking about here, right? So how do we keep that Kentucky culture in a time where we're actually sharing and becoming a little less ourselves because we're being influenced from the outside? Does that make sense?
No, I don't understand what you're saying.
We're trying to bring Kentucky and be like, hey, Kentucky, like, hey, here's what we have here, right? At the same time as the world is becoming more the same.
Absolutely.
Streetwear is
So are you
everywhere.
saying, like, how do we set it apart even though it's similar stuff?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Okay.
Sort of. Like, we have our culture here in Kentucky, right? We talk about certain things: horses, bourbon, coal, agriculture, that stuff. Like, there's a certain list of things you think about.
To define.
But when we talk about not the like literal things that are sitting right here, but if we're talking about, you know, music, apparel, and that sort of thing, it's a real blend. We're talking about bringing streetwear to places that it never existed, right? In the hollers and hills of Kentucky.
Okay.
So that's Brooklyn moving in. Do you see like what's happening in the hills showing up in Brooklyn, or is that a one-way street? Does that make sense what I'm saying?
You kind of touched on that a little bit. So,
yes.
like the Carhartt, like mixing it up.
So this is good. This is really good because you would not be able to believe how many folks that are from Kentucky that live in Brooklyn.
Okay.
You know, and even when I was living out in Eastern Kentucky, you know, whether it was a coffee shop or a small museum or a creative that I met that had the, you know, same intentions, same goals, it felt like Kentucky. And I think that's one thing that makes New York City special is not necessarily only the people that are from New York, but it's the folks that come to the city, that come to Brooklyn to make it what it is. And similarly, you know, being in Eastern Kentucky, it was empowering for folks, at least for the folks that I met, to have me there. You know, for us to be able to share culture, things that we
You
both.
mean somebody that doesn't look like the majority of the people there? Is that
absolutely. It's a great thing. You know, even the folks there, they want to stay there. They have ambitions on being an R&B singer or a folk singer or a clothing brand designer. The only challenge with that is that they believe that they have to leave their home to do that. And so it makes me feel good. It is what the brand is about empowering folks. You know, so if we can create these different businesses here, I think a lot of folks love Kentucky so much that they want to move here. They're impressed by the good bourbon, they're impressed by the equine industry and all of those things. And even when I go home, they're like, oh my gosh, I seen, you know, Bryson Tiller, or I seen Jack Harlow, all of these hip hop or pop cultural figures now that make them want to come to Kentucky more. And so I think a key thing for us to be able to do is cultivate these kinds of communities to support creatives like myself and Spencer Diamond, so that there's more things to do to keep our talent here, to keep our entrepreneurs here, to encourage them to want to build their brands and their businesses, you know, right here instead of somewhere else.
Inspiring them to do that. Like, I think that what you're saying is, you know, super smart, that you're like, you can do this and you don't have to leave here to go do it. We're going to help you find those resources right here in Kentucky. Right. And you may not have to, you can go to Louisville, but you're still in Kentucky. Right. And you can go back home and, you know, again, with those connections, those relationships, you're going to get the same amount of exposure because a lot of eyes are on Kentucky. You don't have to leave Kentucky to, you know, have somebody find out about you, you know, anymore. I feel like
you're absolutely right. I
think they had to.
Yeah, we want to highlight and amplify even more. And I think those, you know, rich Kentucky traditions, they'll stand. They'll live on. They'll live on forever. You know, they just will.
We do a lot of work with Adam Edlin in Edlin Renewables, going out, and we were just in Martin County a few months ago alongside Weather Channel, and who's doing a big documentary basically on what they're doing out there and taking Martin County proper and sort of reinventing that from an old coal community to now being solar and green energy. And so being in that room, they thought that only like 15 people were going to show up to this press conference. And there were over 300 something people that showed up. And it was a job, what do you call it? Like a job fair.
Yeah.
So they had different vendors in there, set up, and you sign up if you're interested, you want to hear more about XYZ. And it's pretty wild because it's like a lot of people in the stories that I remember hearing there where we're just trying to survive, trying to make enough money, just eat, turn some lights on, call it a day.
Drink
let alone
water.
think about let alone think about being on a stage and having a fashion brand. What are you talking about? So those two things obviously play really well together as far as like we got to get people financially viable and stable.
Yep.
And then we could start doing this extra layer of stuff on top. So
and combining those things, like having a show open up before a press conference, thinking outside the box is the stuff that is what really, like you said, those are the things that get you all on the map. Like, why is we're having a show before a press conference, or doing things at the hotel, like just shaking things up and making people think like, what's the relationship? Because there is a relationship between what you're doing and something like what Elan Renewables is doing.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. And that's the beauty of this relationship, right?
Yeah.
It's not just music and it's not just fashion. It's the whole package.
It's the whole thing. It's the whole holistic approach. Yes. Yes.
Culture.
It is.
Yeah.
Of course, this great venue. Couldn't be more thankful to Lost Palm.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Cool.
Yeah.
And also for you all, we appreciate taking the time.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much.
Yeah,
really.
of course.
This is awesome.
thank you for taking time to do this.
Yes.
It's great.
This is dope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
We'll do it again sometime soon.
Yes, we'll have a follow up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We'll do it
are
on
you
a tour bus.
are you
Hey,
going to
there
be
you go.
available to come through to the show?
Sunday?
On Sunday?
Yeah, Sunday,
yeah.
7
I'm going to try
p.m.
to stop by. Yeah.
Make sure you're on the list.
Yep.
All right, good
Yes,
stuff.
All right. Yep. There we
Appreciate
go.
Like I
Good
said, I'm
stuff.
coming to the Nutcracker brunch and then I'll
Right, you're going
come
to be
back.
building
I'll
up
be
that
here all
house.
day.
Just
There
get
we
a room.
go.
Here
They
all
need to get
day.
you a room and you'll be straight for the weekend.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, thank you guys again.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to the Lexington Business Show. Go right now, rate and review the podcast. It's how we grow and thrive and how we get more listeners and get to do a lot more cool stuff here on the show. Thank you.